I'm now ready to call the fourth session of the Audit and Finance Committee meeting to order. And I will start by asking for a roll call vote of the members of the committee first. A roll call of the members of the committee and then the other legislators that are in attendance. Mr. Clay?
Bill Clay, 12.
Paul Bergdorf, 23.
Joe O'Brien, the 25th.
Dave Mayo, Latham, the 20th.
Mark Grimm, 29th, Guilderland.
Lynn Lakakis, 8th, City of Albany.
Doug Bullock, 7th.
Dennis Feeney, 28th.
Thank you very much.
30 seconds.
Please join us at the table.
Yeah.
Tonight, we will begin with crime victims and Ms. Ziegler. Good evening, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you.
All right,
Hey, Bill.
it's page 106.
Thank you. You have your papers?
Oh, yeah, oh, thanks.
Sorry, thanks, Bill.
Anybody
It was
else?
page 106 in your
Don't you have
budget.
yours?
Finish up, please.
All right,
Thank you. I appreciate your time. I'm just very happy to be here again and talk about the wonderful work that we do. We have had additional grant opportunities which we have explored. We are adding 2 new positions. We are adding a crime victim therapist, child, which will be dedicated to the Child Advocacy Center, serving our children and families. And we also are adding 1 more crime victim caseworker, which will be dedicated to the rural and outlying courts. My staff serve thousands of people a day. We reach out to every single crime victim in Albany County, offering them services regardless, whether they are ready at the circumstances. We assist the New York State Office of Victim Services. We have 2 OBS grants. We have our large grant, which funds all of our operations, and we also have our case manager grant. We added our 2 case managers last year, which came on August.
I was just trying to open
It
it.
is a phenomenal opportunity for us to really get in and serve those most needy, those most vulnerable folks who have been the victims of crime. We have our hotline, and we have our hotline training and our volunteers. We have interns with 4 different colleges in the local area. We're just happy to educate and train folks on the work we do. We are very active on our 14 campuses in Albany County with our Enough is Enough grant. Again, honestly, I can talk all day about the work we do. I'm just so excited about it. We have the Safer Bars Initiative, which we did on Saturday. If I don't get a chance to take advantage of our scavenger hunt, it was a great deal of fun. We're so happy for the support of the legislature and the county executive. So I would also be entertaining any questions because I'd have to know what you want to know more about.
I'll start by asking questions. If you can please explain the 8% salary increase and also, same thing, the status of the grants. Is your raise covered in the grants?
Absolutely. It is.
I'd like, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, if I could just give a little preface
Yes,
to
Mr. Thalen?
the reason for this, because this was one discussion, and the director has done an excellent job with this department, has grown this department by almost 100% of personnel, does a lot more than what this title initially set out to do, writes all the grant responses, and has really done what I believe to be an excellent job in growing this department and making it one of the better ones. So you may add whatever you would like to that, but that's...
I appreciate that. When I first came on board, we were 80% county share, and we are 12% county share at this time. We're having almost doubled our budget. We have increased our services exponentially, and yes, every single bit of my increase, and almost all of my salary is completely covered by the grants.
I want you to know I knew that. I just wanted you to say that for the benefit of everyone.
Thank you so much.
All right. Now, do we have any other questions from any other members? Mr. Bergdorf?
This is not a specific budget question, but when you say you reach out to all crime victims, at what point in time do you determine that someone is a victim, and where do you get your information?
We have arraignments, so when someone files a police report, we get their names and addresses and their phone numbers, and we will make every attempt to contact them. So the only way we'll know is if someone files a police report in this one instance. So, for example, we have every single person vouched us or were present in court for all of our victims. So what we'll do is we will attempt to reach them by phone. We'll make 2 phone attempts. If they do not respond, we'll send them 2 letters. We don't want to harass them, so we'll stop at that point, but we are available going forward. We go to our ER, so even if someone's been sexually assaulted, even if they choose not to file a police report, we will still follow up with them at the ER, and we have over 300 ERs. We have, if you average that, we have more than 1 a day, sexual assault victims. So those people don't even have to file a police report. We will outreach them at the hospital. Our trafficking victims, the same thing. We also serve elder abuse victims in the hospital and domestic violence victims at the hospital.
But are the hospitals calling you?
Yes.
They are, okay.
We're very grateful. The sheriff has allowed us to use his 911 call center as our hotline. So all the person has to do is they call the call center, and then we are given that contact information. We have often a volunteer and a staff person backing up that volunteer 24/7, 365.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Grimm?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just want to be clear, I don't think necessarily growing a government agency is necessarily an accomplishment, but I'm intrigued by how you've changed the county share, you've been able to diminish the county share by getting money elsewhere. How did you do that, and can other agencies do that?
I did it by really listening to the grantors, talking to other agencies, talking to my peers, and looking to see where they want us to grow. So we aren't just, when I first started, we were a rape crisis center, and we did some work in the courts. But then we were looking at where was there need. There's a great need around consent. The money first came out through the governor's initiative. I'm sorry, through consent. When the governor's initiative came out, the Enough is Enough money came out, we were already.
Ms. Ziegler?
Yeah,
Let me say something. Mr. Grimm? We're trying to compare an agency that most of the money is grant-related. And to try to compare that to the other agencies, I think it's kind of difficult to...
Maybe she should have some tips or something, because you said it was 80% county share to 12? I know what you're saying, but...
Yeah, but she's not the budget director, and Mr. Thalen, that would be something that would be under his jurisdiction.
Okay.
I just feel that that's not putting her in a spot to say what the social services or children's youth and family services.
I can tell you how I did it, but I couldn't.
You're good at it, there's no
Yes.
question about it, so there's something going on there.
So are there any other questions?
We're happy to have a separate conversation.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great, thanks.
Mr. O'Brien?
I just want to say you're doing a great job, and you're an asset to the county.
Oh, thank you. My job is a gift, and it's an amazing opportunity. I'm so grateful to have it.
Very good. Mr. Bullock?
Thank you. The shootings recently in the city of Albany.
Yes.
Have you been out there? Is it instantaneous, or do you respond?
The shootings are most often felonies. So what happens is most felonies will go to the district attorney's office. We support SNUG, and we support
You do? Okay.
the trauma initiative through Lisa Good and the Urban Grief. So we offer them support, and then of course we back up the DA in whatever capacity he needs us to. So SNUG and the trauma response team are the ones most likely to respond at the time, at the scene.
Okay.
But we follow up, we help them with completing all the documents and getting all the services supports for the victim and the families.
Yeah, the city of Albany 911 operators aren't on the counties yet, but do you have connections with the city 911?
We don't get calls through the 911. Generally speaking, what would happen was if they have contact with law enforcement, any of the local police agencies, law enforcement agencies, or sheriffs, troopers as well, UPD, we have contact generally through the law enforcement agencies. So when someone calls 911, we don't have investigative ability, but we would definitely, anything that comes from them that we would get, we would reach out, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
There are no other questions. We want to thank you,
I may,
Mr.
Madam Chair?
Grimm.
Yeah, and it's not on the grants, okay. How much resources do you spend on protecting crime victims? And I'm wondering, with the new criminal justice reform, will the accused have more access to those victims, and how do you plan for that?
Ask for some clarity, when you mean protection, do you mean before or after an event?
After, in terms of intimidation or something like that.
Okay.
Clearly, there's going to be more people on the street than in jail. That's clear, and I'm wondering, how would that impact your crime victims?
We're very concerned, and one of the issues that we're very concerned about are the orders of protection. Now granted, it's a piece of paper, and as we all know, a piece of paper is only as valued as the person who has it. We're very concerned that right now, people can go to any criminal court and get a temporary order of protection. Once the criminal justice reform comes into play, the only way to get a temporary order of protection is to go through family court. So that would only afford those people who are requesting or protection based on an interpersonal relationship. So neighbors, or there's a large number of people who will not be able to go to family court and get order of protection. So we are actually quite concerned with, I do believe in bail reform. I do believe there's a lot of things that need to be looked at and addressed. However, I am concerned that the victims were lost in this legislation, and that they are more vulnerable as of January.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ziegler.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. No other questions? We want to thank you, first of all, for all of the great work that you have done, and the great way that you are taking care of people who, are some of the most vulnerable people in the county.
Yeah.
So,
It's an honor.
good evening.
Good for you.
Thank you so much.
We will now move to Department of Aging. Ms. Rattano. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, and we're on page 74 in our budget book. All right.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to present the budget of the Department for Aging. I am grateful to the county executive and the legislature for their constant care for more than 60,000 seniors living in Albany County. We have crafted a budget that we think is respectful of the fiscal concerns of the county while maintaining the county's efforts to care for all of its residents. The Department for Aging considers every budget to be a moral document. This year has been a roller coaster ride for me, exhilarating and breathless at times. Because of an outstanding team, I am proud to say we have done much despite the fact that we've been short-staffed and faced adversity since March. We hope to remedy that situation by the end of the year. Our age-friendly program had several events. The showing of Somewhere to Be by Peter Odabashian and Esther Cohen played to a packed house last March. The directors joined us in Albany for the viewing and the question and answer following. It was a story about, not a story, it's true, about seniors living in Washington Square. New York City's Greenwich House Senior Center offers an inexpensive lunch and an invaluable space for the elderly. Artists, immigrants, the homeless, and all kinds of retirees share their stories. It offers a new way to think about aging. Collaboration with Age Friendly and the College of St. Rose Student Affairs has begun under the leadership of Mike Burgess. Food pantry items are delivered to those seniors living in the VI apartments by our St. Rose students. The Village movement has landed in the Capital District. Bethlehem has launched its Bethlehem Neighbors Village, and another village is going to launch soon and has been set in motion in Albany. We launched the Go and Dine program that has to date served approximately 900 older adults. We're very proud to say that 12 area restaurants joined this venture. 70% of the eateries are ethnic and/or women-owned. The statistic speaks to our equity agenda. This pilot research program, under the direction of the University of Buffalo, is closely following 125 of these participants. 65% are women who live alone, 75% are within the federal poverty line, 70% are low-income minority, 33% are 80 plus, and 42% are boomers. As a result of this program, we've become aware of a large number of seniors who need nutrition counseling and have also called the office for other services like transportation and legal assistance. We are working closely with the Muslim community in Colony, both in the western part of the town at the Islamic Center of the Capital District and the northeastern area at Al Hidayah Mosque. Additionally, we are working with the Hindu temple to meet the needs of that community. We've already been in contact with other targeted populations as outlined by NYSOFA guidelines, and that is the Vietnamese, Chinese, Buddhist, and other Asian populations. As the refugee community continues to grow locally, Department for Aging is ready to meet their needs. Our office has an extensive resource directory. 2 new congregate sites were opened this year, Livingston Apartments, which has been 3 years in the making. We are also delighted to begin service at Seville Apartments in Ravenna. These residents experience problems with 2 or more activities of daily living, have cognitive impairment, suffer depression, live alone, and experience social isolation. Many cases require the intervention of DSS. We were delighted with the infusion of $330,000 to our budget as a result of the governor's addition of $15 million to the ISA program. The awards were based on unmet needs and unfilled hours throughout the state, as well as wait lists. The Department for Aging is working collaboratively with surrounding counties as we complete the requisite needs assessment, 4-year plan, and coordinate a unique presentation with a world-renowned expert in the field of Alzheimer's research and caregiving. As the agency has seen the increased use of programs and services, we've identified the need to collaborate with neighboring AAAs to creatively explore other funding opportunities to meet the demand. Our local Albany DFA plans to expand its visibility through special events through a senior center without walls model that will happen throughout the county. We will continue to identify those areas of the county that have specific needs. 4 public hearings are scheduled for November. They are located at South Mall Towers, Ravenna, Frank Chapman Center, and Ohav Shalom. We are tentatively exploring the possibility of 2 additional hearings to include Arabic and Asian translation. So please join us. The dates and times will be sent to the clerk's office. Thank you for your kind attention.
I see we do have our elder care chairman here tonight, Mr. Rich Touche, and I'd like to ask him first, does he have any questions of the commissioner?
I do not. The commissioner and I have been working together, and in fact, we met last week at one of the congregate meals in Ravenna. So I think that the department is doing an excellent job, and I'm happy to support them.
Are there any, Mr. Bergdorf?
Commissioner, when you talked about outreach, is there any suburban outreach? 38% of the seniors in Albany County live in the town of Colony. By far the largest concentration. Is there a reason that they're not included in some of this outreach?
They are included. I mean, we did a whole program at the Hindu temple, which falls into Colony. You have a very, Colony has a very vibrant senior center and offerings there, which are also supported by the DFA. So I think we do tremendously reach out into Colony. And in fact, Colony has, in the Go and Dine program, has 23% of that share goes to your seniors living in Colony.
Of the Go and Dine program?
Of the Go and Dine program, yeah.
Okay, I just, once again, largest concentration of seniors. I know there are a couple of, there's a town organization, there's a not-for-profit.
Right.
They both do a pretty good job, but...
I keep an eye on Colony. My mother lives there.
Oh, really?
Whereabouts?
She lives on Lansing Road.
Just going to stop by and say hello.
No?
At your own risk.
It's in Dave Mayo's district.
Mr. Bullock?
Yes, thanks for setting up the program at St. Vincent's. It's been the congregate meals and the bus trips. They've been really helpful for the seniors there, and we just did that too. But I was wondering, you had one missing from your list of mosques. The mosque on Central Avenue, Masjid Salam.
Yes, I know, and I'm very close to the imam there. And he's away, as you know, in Somalia for 2 months, visiting his 104-year-old father. And we have talked about, they're remodeling in there.
Yeah.
So we've put our conversations on hold until the remodeling gets done.
Okay.
And, we plan on continuing as we are with the other 2 mosques.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank
No,
you.
we haven't forgotten them at all.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a question on, excuse me, somebody talking? Oh, I'm sorry. I did have a question on the confidential secretary,
Yes.
okay? And I see there's a 12% increase in salary.
Yes.
Could you explain?
Sure. We want to be on par with everyone else. If you look at comparables throughout the county, confidential secretaries are making more money than what our confidential secretary was making. We want to be able to have the same talent everybody else does. We don't want to have somebody for 5 minutes and then they leave to go somewhere else because they can be offered better pay. If you look at the law department or the sheriff's office, immigration county clerk, all of those confidential secretaries make more than what the line was for our secretary. As our program has grown, so has the needs of what we want a confidential secretary to do, which is to have a bigger role on our team. It's the secretarial job that we envision is not somebody who comes out of the steno pool.
Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The restaurant meal dining program, which is a grant that we received from the federal government, is there any attempt to renew that when this expires next year?
ACL will not renew it. They'll move on to other counties throughout the country. I mean, we were one of 4 that received it. We're hoping, we've abided by all the guidelines that the state has put out, so we're hoping that they will look seriously at funding this. Also, we were bombarded with phone calls when this came out, and we have seen a huge need that people want a different way to be able to engage. Certainly that is the case for boomers. So we're hoping that more funding will come that way, or that we'll be able to creatively come up with something that will work for everyone.
But this was a federal grant.
This was a federal grant,
And
yeah.
have you worked with the state in trying to have this
Well,
picked up?
that's what we're doing, well, we can't do anything with the state yet.
Okay.
But we have abided by all of their guidelines with congregate meals, so that when it comes time, that they will look seriously at us and say, I mean, we've gotten wonderful responses from people. We had a lady who said between January and July, she had lost quite a bit of weight. She was depressed. She got onto this program. She's now stabilized her weight. And I keep sending those kinds of stories down to 112, because I think, we probably all don't pay attention to that. We just think, well, they night out for dinner. No, it means so much more to a senior.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a very social
Absolutely,
activity.
it absolutely
And a lot
is.
of these
Changes
seniors.
somebody right around, knowing that they have that to look forward to. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. This Monday at 5:30, the Elder Care Committee meets. And so if you have any questions relative to the congregate meals and the congregate dining program, I would suggest that you come to the meeting, because that would be part of the discussion this coming Monday at 5:30. Are there any other questions, budget related? If not, we want to thank you for coming down this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're going to move to immigration now. Evelyn McKenna?
That's the question I had.
Page 139 in the budget book.
But I'll ask her.
I don't really understand. So like,
$139, thank you.
Card, do they have like a debit card that they run up to 204? Like, how does that work? Somebody only eats one piece of cake and one entree, and somebody wants two.
Immigration.
No, you get an entree.
We have immigrants.
You get a set.
Is that right?
You get a set, choice, set price, yeah. And you put the tip.
Good evening, Ms. Kenna. How are you?
Good evening, Madam Chair, lady and gentlemen.
Immigration.
of the legislature.
That's not controversial.
I am the Deputy Director of the Office of Immigration Assistance, and this is a position I have held since the inception of the office in 2015. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. All the positions in the Office of Immigration Assistance in 2019 are funded through grant monies from New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services, ILS. Our office is one of 6 centers in New York State which was selected through an RFP process to participate in the development of a statewide network of regional immigration assistance centers. Our office is designated as Region 3, and we cover 14 counties in New York State. As such, we are responsible for ensuring that non-citizen clients with legally mandated representation in our region receive accurate and comprehensive advice with respect to the immigration consequences of their family and criminal court cases. We also provide attorney and judicial trainings and outreach. It is anticipated that all positions proposed in the 2020 budget shall be fully funded through the grant program as well. We have been in constant contact with ILS regarding the timing of the release of the new RFP. I have been informed by a member of the executive team at ILS that the new RFP will be issued anytime in the next 2 to 4 weeks.
Could you repeat that?
It is anticipated that all positions in the 2020 budget shall be fully funded through the grant program. We have been in constant contact with the New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services regarding the timing of the release of the new RFP. I have been informed by a member of the executive team at ILS that the new RFP should be released anytime in the next 2 or 4 weeks. Albany County will be submitting a proposal when the RFP is released. We are confident that we will be granted a full award of the monies necessary to run our programs because Albany County has a distinct advantage in the upcoming RFP process. We are the first county and the only county in Region 3 with documented expertise in this niche field covering the intersection between immigration, family, and criminal law. And the fact that we have successfully managed this program for the last 4 years will be reflected in the scoring in the future RFPs. ILS has also assured us that the future award will be retroactive to November 2019, which is the end of the current grant period. There is only one new position that is being added to the office. Additionally, one of the titles, Assistant Public Defender, is being changed to Immigration Counsel. This title change accurately reflects the duties that will be performed in that role. The Immigration Counsel will provide expert analysis to attorneys regarding the immigration consequences in family court and criminal court on the immigration status of their clients. The other Assistant Public Defender title is being changed to Director. This position has been in existence since the inception of the office and was previously held by Jim Milstein. With that, Madam Chair, I'm open to any questions that you may have. as well as any questions from other members of the legislature.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I noticed that you did say that you're the deputy director?
I am.
Okay. Mr. Clay?
No, the question, who is the director?
That position is currently vacant,
Ah.
and it's being, we're reviewing applications to fill.
You said you are reviewing applications now?
We're in the process of reviewing position for position.
So who does the hiring?
It would be the
County
executive,
Exec's office.
the executive would nominate someone for this. ILS would in turn also weigh in on their
Yes,
opinion.
ILS will weigh in on because
'Cause
they
they're
will be
gonna want-
looking for someone with expertise in immigration and the intersection of immigration and family and criminal law.
The Department of Human Resources has reached out to Indigent Legal Services and in conjunction with them formed a description, and then Jennifer Clement has actually went out and advertised for the position because ILS wanted to assure that as we move forward, it's going to be consistent with the new RFP that's going to be issued.
So how long has the office been in place now?
Since 2015.
Do you have any idea the number of cases that?
Yes, we have assisted with over 500 unique cases as far as consulting on cases in family court and criminal court. And we've also assisted with over 150 trainings, attorney and judicial trainings, and outreach programs with county bars across our 14-county region. And we continue to do that. Just today I was in Rensselaer with the Rensselaer County Bar doing a training. And we were also very fortunate to have a training organized by the Court of Appeals, the New York Court of Appeals, in March, where a lot of the justices were present and a lot of the court clerks and staff attorneys. That training was very well received, and we were able to communicate to them that immigration is a very pressing issue currently in the country.
So the budget line that I see here on conferences, training, tuition, that $30,000?
Yes.
Is that what you're referring to when you all do the training?
Yes, we
Your
offer
office.
free CLEs because we want to encourage people to understand what the immigration consequences consequences are, and it's certainly a draw to be able to bring people in.
Are there any other questions from the members? Mr. Mayo?
How much do you pay every year in interpreter services?
Interpreter, that's something we're going to really ramp up and use this year because we want to make sure that the clients that we're helping the attorneys with have all the resources available to them.
I can get you some specifics on that as it's going forward.
But do you have a ballpark? Just-
I would say probably 20, 30,000 a year fees for service. That's, like I said, that's ballpark.
Okay. Do you have volunteers? I mean, do you actually have people you can call to come in, and family members or something?
Not currently, but that's certainly
For
something.
interpretive purposes?
For-
The problem is, if we're assisting, and again, we don't do the direct client, if we're assisting the public defender or 18B or some other client, for the purposes of interpretive, it's going to have to be one that is recognized by the court.
Doesn't the court pay for it if it's recognized by the court?
It depends on whether or not that is a client interview. So in other words, the client is trying to interview or have a meeting with the attorney. I'm not sure if that one is going to be. If it is there for the court purposes, it is, but not necessarily for attorney-client.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bullock?
Yes, thank you. During high peak time, we had immigrants in the Albany County Jail, and we had over 200. At one time, Sheriff tells us it's now down to nothing. Did your caseload really spike at that time and then go down radically?
That's a different clientele. We did assist with that process as well because they were mostly looking at We were doing the initial screening so that a lot of those individuals are looking at asylum claims, and we have to do the initial screening so that they can do a credible fear interview at a later stage. So that's a completely different clientele. We do not do direct representation. My client is the attorney who is representing the client. That's my client is that attorney. And the judge, if he chooses to call me, and I do get calls from judges as well.
Okay. I want to thank you so much for the presentation that you've given us. It's been very enlightening. Mr. Grimm, do you have a question?
Yeah, if I can, thank you, Madam Chair. You said all these positions are funded by the state?
They will be 100%.
Does that include their benefits?
Yes.
Yeah, the benefits. There are some fees for service that are not inherently able to be recouped by the state that are necessary for the department. Stuff like the transcription services are, but other, I'd have to get back to you.
But it's mostly state-funded, 80?
Mostly,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very welcome.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.
Mr. Slatsky, and now the nursing home, page 324 in your budget books. And I just want to ask all of our members, remember, we want to we do want to keep this on the budget, please. And I do know you're going to have questions on the nursing home and the status of the reconstruction project, so that's allowed. So, Mr. Slatsky?
Thank you for having me and permitting me to present the 2020 nursing home budget. I'm not going to go into the accomplishments and our projected plan for 19 and 20. It's in the budget book. However, it's extremely aggressive. As most of you know, we've been working diligently on our construction projects and renovations. We believe in the next 60 days, phase 1 will be complete, and we'll be moving in to the north side of the nursing home. That will be all of the administration areas, as well as wings that what used to be known as D, E, and F, which represent 120 beds. We'll continue to use 3 stories of the high-rise until units A, B, and C are complete, as well as the south side of administration. We believe that the budget that we put together addresses the growth of the nursing home. Right now, we've been averaging approximately 190, 195 residents per day. We believe as soon as those wings open, our census will jump to what is anticipated to be our average census of approximately 240 a day, increasing our IGT payment, increasing our Medicare revenue, Medicaid revenue, and managed care revenues. We've managed in this budget to really maintain all expenses as the previous year. We believe that the budget for 2019 has been adhered to. Running a business as a nursing home, our budget, we believe, needs to be extremely fluid, and that's why positions that we brought back from $1 that was utilized during the course of the year to fund overtime and other expenses like per diem allowed us to remain fluid. Over the last 60 days, with our campaign to retain and hire new staff members, we've been able to fill over 30 vacant positions, 30, that have been vacant for almost 2 years. And we believe that our overtime will be significantly reduced in 2020, as well as some of our per diem and clearly agency that we hope to eliminate in 2020 and only use our staff to provide the services to our resident population. So that really is the total part of it. The only share that we ask of the county to be paid is the IGT. That has been consistent with past years, and no other funding will be necessary for the nursing home. We're holding our own.
All right, I'm going to start with some questions.
Sure.
Okay, my first question is, about the 70 vacant positions that you do have, okay? And are you going to fill them?
Right now, when that list was created, that was prior to our media campaign, which is all over Albany right now. We were able to fill, as I speak here today, by the second week of November, 35 of those positions, primarily in the nursing department.
In the nursing department?
Primarily, probably 98% CNAs and nurses.
All right, so let me ask you this. So do these vacancies that you have, these 35, is that correspond to the positions listed at $1 in your, in the budget?
In the previous budget. That's why we're refunding them back to where they need to be, because over half of them, 60% of them, now have people on those lines, staff members on those lines, and it's really anticipated that by the end of the year, virtually all of those positions that we're requesting for January 1, 2020 will be filled, because it is again anticipated in our budget that shortly after the first of the year, probably by the first quarter, we hope to bring our nursing home up to its traditional census, which would be somewhere around 230, 240 residents every single day, and then eventually move to capacity.
The other thing is, can you just please, no, I won't go there. Could you please explain, the budget shows a significant change in the county share to the nursing home operations, and page 333 in the budget book. So 2019 adjusted shows about $6 million, and 2020 proposed shows $9.4 million. That's like a 50% increase.
I'll try to explain this one, Madam Chair. So, you're on page 333?
Yes.
So, on page 334, you have a summary of the whole nursing home. What you see on page 333 is that increase in revenue and negative county share. It's needed to cover the debt service payments. So debt service isn't in the budget, it's on your fund summary sheet. Your debt service for next year is going to be roughly $7 million for all the new building and all of that, which is reimbursable, and the revenue portion of that is above the line on this county share on page 333, right? And that's why that number increases so much, but it's there because it has to cover the debt service, the revenue that is generated from the new building for the debt service.
And I noticed that you talked about the IGT.
Correct.
Okay, so it's around 9.8 million?
The IGT last budget was around 9.8 million. We just got notification, actually we just got another check for 3.8 million. The IGT did drop based on the census during the catchment period by approximately 1.5 million or so, because it's based on Medicaid days. We are hopeful now that the wings will be opening, that we'll go right back up, and the IGT will also be increased significantly back to the dollar amount that it was. So 2020 revenue-wise should be a very good year for us.
Okay. Now on page 331, the personal service savings line. So why is the revenue in the expense account, and does this mean that the budget is still balanced?
It does mean it's still balanced. We anticipate that $940,000 in personnel savings from vacant positions that will be filled throughout the year, but at the partial year cost, et cetera. You're going to try to fill as many as you can, but by March you might have 10 or so vacancies, so that appropriation was for that. And this balances that metric that you're going to have in March.
Okay. All right. Still on page 331, the 2019 adjusted personnel costs are over $11.5 million.
I have my sheet from, no, I don't have the budget book, I'm going with my sheet, which has different numbers on the bottom.
Yeah, so it should be bottom line, your bottom line adjusted.
I think this is
So
what
that,
you're talking
it's
about,
basically the
personnel
increase
services.
because of your $1 funding, your full funded positions.
And so it's
All right,
11,
yeah.
but the
Yeah,
2020
difference would be because
proposed,
now we refunded the dollar positions, so that went up. Is that what you're looking at, the 19 to 20?
yes,
Yes.
Yeah, that's because the positions which we moved from salary to overtime per diem during the course of 2019 were now brought back to the January 1 salary of 2020, and therefore it increased, okay, the requested amount. But on the other side, we decreased the overtime that it was used for, decreased agency, and decreased per diem because of the refunding of those positions. And that's why I said in my opening comments how fluid our budget needs to be, because healthcare is fluid, revenue is fluid, hiring staff is fluid, and we need to have a budget that allows us that flexibility. That being said, any change, once approved, of course, I would have to come back to the legislature for approval.
okay. Now, can you tell me how much of the capital cost will be reimbursed by Medicaid and Medicare?
I can't tell you specifically until it's all submitted when the project's complete, the actual dollar amount. I can tell you right now that we're in discussion with the New York State Department of Health, and we've submitted approximately $47 million of expenses for 19, and we're working with them right now on what capital we're going to get back. In addition, that part of that $7 million that we refer to, we're also discussing with the New York State Department of Health, because that's representative of the carrying cost for the bonds, which is $83,450,000, and we're trying to get the total interest and carrying charges for that dollar amount. So we're right in the midst of it. If we get all of it, which we're asking for, it will be approximately $60 to $70 a day additional revenue and capital. If we get part, meaning what we actually spent, it may be around more like $50 a day additional capital. Either way, we have to get it, because if we don't get it now, which we're asking for, because we already borrowed the money, they have to give it to us next year by regulation, because it will have been spent. And our argument is, and it's not really an argument, it's a discussion, that the money's been borrowed, it's in the bank, we're paying interest on it now, here's our 2020 budget, you can see here's the carrying charges. We're really entitled to the money at this time, and we should get it January 1 versus waiting until next year.
So would you say that the construction budget is on track?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I have another question, and I'm going to open it up. So,
Excuse me one second. Yeah.
can you rephrase that question?
Yes.
Okay, let me clarify one thing that the Commissioner is saying. We spent $46 million so far, as an example, in construction costs, construction manager costs, and traditionally, the Health Department will review all of those documents after being certified by our accountants and submitted when project completion. What we're doing is bringing them all of what we spent to date, pleading what they call hardship, so that we could get it now versus waiting till the end of the project, because we've proven that we've already borrowed the money. So that's what we're in the midst of doing now, and these discussions have been very successful so far to date. We're waiting for the response. We're right in the middle of negotiations as we speak.
Thank you. Mr. Clay?
Yeah, Larry, can you tell us where you are relative to the MWB goals that we set on the project? Can you tell me where we are with that?
I personally can't. I know that those numbers are requested, meaning I don't have them in front of me. I could supply them to you through the commissioner, but we do meet monthly. Well, actually, the meeting took place this week, and they're invited to the meeting. The representatives of the county and the construction manager, Gil Bain, is responsible to provide that documentation, which they've received from Jerson Construction, which in fact they do.
We've had some difficulties with getting information. We had asked for meetings, and the meetings were set and then postponed, canceled. And was there a new date set?
As of right now, no.
And that's what mystifies me. I don't understand what's going on there.
Has anybody applied for any waivers?
I'm not sure. I'm not
Let me-
sure
let
if
me-
there's
let-
been any waivers submitted.
Let me look into this for you. Mr.
One thing
Flagg.
that we can do is, that's why I just discussed with the commissioner, that we could get you those documents, and if there is discussion of waiver or request, it would be in those documents.
And how soon can we get them?
I don't think within a week would be impossible. Is that a good enough time frame, or would you like it sooner?
No, that's okay, but what upsets me is when we ask for information and we don't get it. And when I say we, I'm talking about the Legislative Black Caucus who asked for that information. So you are essentially talking 6 county legislators asking the county exec's office for that information, and we don't get it. That's not acceptable to me as the chair of the caucus. And I'd appreciate it if you look into that.
I certainly will, Mr.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Grimm?
Thank you, Madam Chair. What is the actual number, Larry, on the reconstruction of the nursing home? Because it's changed over the time. Are we able to pin a number on what our renovation cost is?
Our borrowed amount is $83,450,000 in bonds.
Okay.
That commenced somewhere, the request from the legislature, which started with the roof, if you remember. So we're going back to the roof way before any renovation of the nursing home as we know it today. So it goes back to June 13, is a total of $83,450,000. No. And therefore, all capital since that time to date, which is inclusive of the renovation and the construction, is that dollar amount. Okay. And we don't plan on going over that. That's what we agreed to, and we're doing everything in our day-to-day power of supervising this project to make sure that happens.
And is that all reimbursable by the state? Or-
Yes, we're submitting all.
That's your expectation?
Yes, for sure. It is our expectation that every dollar will be reimbursed from the bonds that are being spent, meaning you receive interest by regulation on the bonds borrowed, and then they are amortized, through depreciation, and you receive that dollar amount back in capital.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Bergdorf?
Larry, this is from a 10,000-foot view. I mean, historically, prior to you getting here, the nursing home ran a very substantial deficit for the county, and it's come down and down and down and down. And last year, I think we were somewhere around $2.5–3 million, something like that.
A little less, but yes.
Okay. I realize that everything is fluid, okay? And that there are projections based on the census going to 240 and reimbursement rates and the like. Is there a number that would be associated with this budget as proposed, that would be a comparable number, which would show a trend up or down from that little bit less than
Yes,
2.5
if you
million?
look at, now it's my page, but it's called Nursing Home Fund Summary.
Good question.
334.
Page 334?
It's 334.
Mine's 336, but it's your 334. If you look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines up from the bottom, you'll see fund balance.
Yeah.
2020, 1,000,005.
Okay.
The previous year was 2,150,000, so you can see it would decrease by $650,000. That's it. Joyner, the commissioner could explain it.
I
probably
mean,
a little better
ultimate
than me.
goal would be, at some point, that you would be able to take a substantial portion of the ITT payment over.
Correct. That's the goal.
You gotta remember, and within this budget, it's handling all legacy healthcare costs that were associated with all the previous workers. So that's about 2 million on top. So that's covered within this budget, being paid for by the nursing home. That wasn't, if the nursing home was not here or here, we would be responsible for that. So when that chunk of is talked about, that is being handled by the nursing home. And ultimately, we would like to see that. I mean, that's the goal.
Correct.
And I think it's very, very possible with the way with the strides we've made so far. And I mean, if you've been out there, Mr. Bergdorf.
Right, right.
It's pretty nice. It's really looking good.
So our deficit continues to narrow.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Ultimately, like I said, we'd like to take at least half the IGT payment back.
I mean, the nursing home, if we continue on the path that we're taking, especially after the renovation is complete, and you could run a census of 240 to 250, which is our total amount of licensed beds. So hopefully you could average somewhere around 245. The nursing home should be totally self-sufficient.
Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Do you anticipate with any time soon that the cap of 250, is there any possibility of that increasing if our population in the county increases, or is it, what is that based on?
I believe that the New York State Department of Health will not in any time in the near future increase anyone's licensed beds for nursing homes. That is not their agenda. Their agenda is to have as many beds in the skilled nursing world be given up.
Say that again?
Right now, we have a licensed capacity of 250
yes.
residents. And I believe the question was,
If
do
our
you
population...
believe that would go up at any time? And my answer was that it is currently the policy of the New York State Department of Health not to issue new licensed beds to existing nursing homes.
What if other nursing homes go out of business locally? Does that change that license, if you will?
Well, one, that would be up to the New York State Department of Health.
Yeah.
So my answer, just sitting from where I'm sitting, and it's just from what my belief would be, there's what's called a certificate of need process. That's what we use to reconstruct a nursing home.
Yep.
Any nursing home could submit a certificate of need to justify need and see if the health department would approve it.
Yes. Mr. O'Brien, I'm sorry, Mr. Bergdorf.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Larry, over the years, you've talked about different specialties, or I don't want to call them product lines, but at one point in time, you were contemplating using one wing for potentially dialysis payments, or patients. We've now rebranded to go and talking about rehabilitation. When you project the 240, 245 person census, what would be the breakdown between, traditional senior services, rehab, or any other specialty?
Yeah, that's a fair question. What will go up are, I believe, two distinct areas. That's acute nursing home care, meaning the sicker resident we will be able to care for because we'll have larger areas and equipment to be able to provide that service, and therapy. We'll have a brand-new state-of-the-art therapy department, which is in phase 2, but we have all of the apparatuses and equipment necessary to provide that type of service to, I believe, a more sophisticated long-term care or short-term care, really, resident. So I think that we will be able to increase what's called our Medicare census and short-term stays. And we're actually developing one of the units. It's still skilled care, it's not a specialty unit, but internally it would be known as a rehab unit. We've already started it actually on the 3rd floor of our existing nursing home, where we designed those rooms a little bit differently. We equipped them with their own televisions, flat screen TVs, which every room in the new building will have one. So that, because you're getting a younger population and a population who's definitely going back to the community, and they want different things. So we decorated and took care of the rooms that way, as well as the equipment utilized to care for them. I believe that that population will truly will grow. In addition, October 1st of this year, we started a new reimbursement system, PDPM, which is patient-driven care and reimbursement through Medicare. And we're totally on board with that, and that's one of the reasons why in this particular budget, we're transitioning from activity leaders, activity assistants, to certified occupational therapy assistants. Why? Because they provide that same service. The difference is they're certified. So all of the care that they're providing is reimbursable and can be documented through the care plan from the MDS system. So it's MDS, care plan, delivery of care, quality, positive outcomes done by COTAs versus activity leaders who are not necessarily as qualified to provide that service, and clearly due to their background cannot get reimbursed, where a COTA can.
Now, you said that $83 million is what has been budgeted for the nursing home bonds. Is that correct?
What I'm saying is, since 2013, the nursing home has bonded $83,450,000 for capital expenses.
Do you expect to spend $83 million?
Probably.
Okay. Okay. So when is the projected completion date of the nursing home?
Well, we believe right now, and we're over there literally every day, a few times a day, and Legislator Shea was there, this week, and we had a nice tour. We're hoping within 60 days. I mean, that's our goal right now. 6 weeks to 8 weeks. What did I say?
60 days.
60.
But that's just the first half.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I'm going to keep talking. No joke. So, phase 1, I'll word it that way. Phase 1, we're hoping within 60 days will be open, which is the north side of the building. That was in my opening, that phase 2 will be sometime next year at this time. So we're looking at the end of the summer of 2020. We're hoping phase 2 will be complete, which are wings A, B, and C, and the south side of the administration.
And phase 1 began when?
Phase 1 began somewhere around August of last year.
Or August of 18?
Correct.
And you expect in the end of December, or?
Yeah, we're hoping by the end of November, we're going to be very, very close, if not ready, to open. We still need health department approval to open the wings for the residents. We're already, starting tomorrow, we're already getting furniture delivered and starting to populate the offices. So, and then next week, a lot of the resident furniture is coming. We already have the lifters, on site. We're getting ready to open. We're very close.
I have to say, we're really looking forward to what you have expressed that we're going to be able to accomplish with renovating and the new construction portions of the nursing home too, so that we will be, as you put it, self-sufficient. Is that correct?
Correct. This nursing home is so special, and the people of Albany, the community of Albany, the people of Albany are going to have a nursing home, a long-term care facility that will provide and be able to provide quality of care in an environment that I don't believe any other nursing home in this entire region has.
So there was a response that you gave that since the budget was submitted, 35 of those 70 vacant positions have been filled.
Correct.
Okay, so isn't it expectation that the overtime is going to go down?
Oh, for sure. The overtime, which I am really watching now, more so than ever, just from the people who we've hired, even though some of those people are not totally on board yet, and some are now going through orientation. Just from last week to this week, the overtime dropped $8,000. It went from around $36,000 to $28,000, and we're hoping over the next 2 weeks it'll go from $28,000 to $20,000. And hopefully, alongside that, we're going to limit agency use.
Mr. Bergdorf.
Larry, when I was out for my visit, we talked about how many square feet you have in the new facility, and I think we came up with about 177,000 square feet. And it's a very, very high-tech facility, electronics. Do you have the maintenance staff to maintain a facility of that size and complexity?
This is how I'm looking at it today. The building's still under construction. Every piece of equipment is warranted and guaranteed. The construction company and all the subs will be there this time next year. And they have to maintain what they put in for at least now till a year from now, meaning next year when everything's complete. So let's say a year and a half. Sometime during the latter part of next year, we're going to have to address that. This equipment that is part of this new construction is extremely sophisticated.
I realize.
Computerizations, everything's computerized. The heating system, the cooling system, electrical, IT. This is state-of-the-art nursing home from the inside out. And we're going to have to evaluate that for sure.
Do you expect that we'll be able to maintain a competitive edge with the other facilities that are in the area? Because we know how difficult it is to get certain staff, especially nurses.
Putting together a quality staff is one of the most difficult jobs that I have, in all honesty, especially in an area where the supply doesn't meet the demand. So what I have found since being in Albany, we need to bring in people who have specific qualities that we're looking for, work ethic. And by utilizing consultants, which you have so graciously approved, such as companies that help us with our MDS, help us with our quality measures, which are imperative to our day-to-day operation in general, assist us in bringing in people who have those qualities, but now teaching them long-term care and how to take what's inside of them and turn it into what we need to provide the type of service to our residents that's required. And that is a very, very difficult task.
Are there any other questions from Mr. O'Brien?
How are the supplies? Are they pretty supplies that you require from different vendors? I know you had an issue earlier this year with some vendors, not, didn't one go out of business or something?
Oh, yes.
The linen.
The linens, I believe.
Well,
Thank you.
that's
The
a little
linen,
bit
they threw in the
different.
towel.
Yeah, right. That's a little bit different. We have no problems with supplies. However, if you remember, around 5 years ago, we closed our laundry.
Yes.
And we outsourced to a company. That company went bankrupt. During the reorganization, they determined that they could not exist, and they closed their doors, literally within 2 weeks.
Mr. Slatsky, is this an issue that's going to be addressed at the meeting on Monday? Supplies?
It could. It's one of my, it's one of my RLAs.
Yes, yes. So the Elder Care Committee is going to address that on Monday at 5:30.
I just have one other question.
Yes, Mr. O'Brien.
I understand that the state is facing a $2.7 billion deficit. Is that going to affect reimbursements from the state, you think, or?
Right now, I participated, along with around 29 of my peers, on a committee that was mandated by the state legislature, along with the New York State Department of Health. Every association was represented. I, along with the New York State Health Facility Association, Leading Age, was a participant. There were 3 meetings. We gave our recommendations based on the case mix, which does affect our budget. And those recommendations were not followed or even considered when the New York State did their budget. And we received notice a couple of weeks ago, the whole industry did, that they were going to use a specific, put in layman's terms, a specific catchment period from the MDS, which is your case mix, and then determine retroactively to July of this year, what our rate's going to be. Money we've already spent. And that did have a negative effect on the entire industry. Some nursing homes had a reduction of rate, retroactive, by up to at least $3 million, which is 6 months, $1.5 million they're taking back. Our nursing home right now is projected that our take back is going to be somewhere around $420,000, or half of that, $210,000, which isn't horrible. We, when I say we, the industry today filed a lawsuit against the state for this implementation and how it was done. That's the whole industry. Every nursing home, for the most part in New York State, to get a stay on the implementation of this take back, the way they did the case mix, and hopefully we'll see what happens. It's going to be heard literally by the first week of November, and we'll know. But if we do not win the stay, we still continue the lawsuit. For the nursing home, it means a take back of approximately $210,000, which we could endure. See, on the positive side, which I really didn't mention, it's kind of in here, the nursing home, due to our recruitment and retention efforts over the last year, which we've worked very, very hard on, we qualified for what's called the Advanced Training Initiative, which we were approved by the New York State Department of Health. And we received a check just yesterday for $433,000 for our work on recruitment and retention, and to utilize those dollars, okay, to continue those efforts. And part of that will be another RLA, which is part of education, very small RLA. So there's two sides, and there's good sometimes, and sometimes it's not so good. But it's our job to, like I said, have a fluid budget and try to work with the system as best we can.
I know it's difficult. They're changing the rules in the game as you're playing it.
Right. Well,
Going back to the first inning.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Slatsky.
Thank you.
Mr. Bullock?
Yes, thank you. 190 residents, that's kind of the lowest I've heard of it for the nursing home. How long have you been there at 190, and when do you expect a turn? After the first phase of the project?
We actually have been down to 180, 170, 178.
You were that low?
Yeah, I
Okay.
will tell you that the nursing home, and that's, again, we do our staffing based on census and the case mix, meaning what is the acuity of all of our residents and how many people are living there every day to determine how much staff is needed. That's why we remain fluid and use what we need, okay, to keep to our budget. So that being said, the nursing home approximately, I would say, around 15 months ago, I closed one of the units for the construction, to move the construction along quicker, and since we were below 200 residents a day. Why? One, I could
That's when
use
it happened. Okay.
less staff, because that's one unit 24/7. I could maximize the staff I had. I was averaging 195 anyway a day. That allowed me to close the unit, speed up construction, use the staff that I had in a better way to serve our resident population. And the max I could go to anyway is 200. And normally it's probably around more like 195, and we're in the 190, 192. So we're doing okay to budget.
When's that going to turn around?
As soon as phase one is complete, we
That's what
start
I
phasing
asked.
around 60 days.
That's what I asked, thank you. 60 days.
I hope.
Mr. Slatsky, I just want to thank you
thank you
for
all.
coming before
Thank you.
us. And we're looking forward to this jewel that we're going to have. And the one thing I do have to commend the county exec on is the fact that we finally went through this. In the year 2000, we were working on looking at different models for a new nursing home. It is now, we're on the edge of 2019 going into 2020. And it has taken that long to actually get to something. So I have to give him credit for that. I really do. I have to give him credit for that. And so thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
And those of you that still have questions in regards to the nursing home and issues, and come out Monday night, 5:30 for the Elder Care Committee. Mr. Touche is he's our chairperson for that committee. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion?
Motion